59 Bugatti Chiron Pur Sports were left in the world. One of them was a carcass in Miami. A carbon fiber corpse the factory had essentially erased from existence by locking its VIN. Then Matt Armstrong showed up with a toolbox and a flat refusal to take no for an answer. What followed wasn't just a rebuild. It was a high-stakes standoff with Bugatti's own CEO, Mate Rimac, that ended in something nobody saw coming. This is a story of grease, grit, and a $4 million act of defiance. When a normal car gets into a fender bender, you call the insurance company, get a check, and head to a body shop. When a Bugatti Chiron Pur Sport, a car so rare it makes a standard Chiron look common, rear ends a $4,000 Japanese delivery truck on a Miami street, the rules of reality simply dissolve. This particular car once sat as the crown jewel of influencer Alex Gonzalez's collection. It didn't just sustain damage that day. It sustained a corporate execution. Bugatti doesn't do salvage. In the eyes of the Molsheim elite, a compromised Bugatti is no longer a Bugatti. It is a liability with a badge. After a factory technician flew in from France to inspect the wreckage, the verdict was swift and absolute: total loss. But the brand didn't stop there. They implemented what the community has come to call the Blacklist. They locked the car's VIN in their global system. From that moment forward, no authorized dealer on Earth, not in Dubai, not in London, not anywhere, was permitted to sell so much as a plastic clip for this chassis. The car became a ghost, a $4 million sculpture of carbon fiber and hand-stitched leather that was legally and mechanically forbidden from ever being whole again. Then came the bill. If the owner wanted the car resurrected, Bugatti wasn't about to let a local mechanic turn a wrench on it. They demanded the car be shipped back to France for a factory restoration, and the initial estimate for parts alone was a soul-crushing $1.7 million. To appreciate what that number actually means, consider the individual line items. A pair of headlights was quoted at $174,000. Each front fender cost another $200,000. The horseshoe grille, that iconic emblem of automotive royalty, sat at a cool $93,000. You could buy a fleet of brand-new Porsches for the price of the Bugatti's front end alone. It was a gatekeeping tactic dressed up as a repair estimate, designed to ensure that if you couldn't afford to fix it their way, the car stayed dead. Most people look at a number like that and see a wall. Matt Armstrong looked at it and saw a dare. He didn't just want to fix the car. He wanted to expose the hypercar tax for what it really was. When he arrived in Miami to survey the damage firsthand, he found a car that was certainly battered but far from destroyed. The carbon fiber tub had minor cracks. The engine mounts were fractured, but the legendary 8-liter quad-turbo W16, the beating heart of the machine, was still intact. Matt stood in that Miami garage, running his hands over the wreckage, and arrived at a conclusion that would set the entire industry on fire. The unrepairable label wasn't a technical fact. It was a business decision. Meanwhile, the tension was already escalating. Alex Gonzalez, the car's owner, issued a public ultimatum on Instagram. He gave Bugatti 24 hours to unblacklist the car, or he and Matt would 3D print every last replacement part themselves. It was a threat aimed directly at the core of Bugatti's entire business model: exclusivity. If a guy in a workshop in England could scan and print a fender that looked and functioned like the genuine article, the $200,000 price tag on the factory version would be exposed as theater. Normally, when you publicly threaten a multi-billion-dollar brand under the Volkswagen Group umbrella, you receive a cease and desist letter faster than the car does 0 to 60. You get lawyers. You get silence. You get crushed under the weight of corporate machinery. But this time, something was different. Millions of people were watching Matt's YouTube channel. They were seeing the internal anatomy of a Chiron for the first time, and they were realizing that underneath all the prestige, it was still just bolts and wires and fluid. The curtain had been pulled back, and the wizard was sweating. Matt shipped the car to England, and the real work began. His father, a veteran mechanic with decades of making things work when the manual said otherwise, became his secret weapon. The two of them, father and son, elbow deep in a machine that cost more than most houses, represented the exact opposite of the sterile, white-glove Molsheim environment. There was no pristine factory floor here, no technicians in lab coats, just fluorescent lights, cold tea, and the sound of ratchets. Watching them work, you could see something beyond mechanics. This was a father passing down a philosophy to his son, the stubborn, beautiful belief that there is no machine on earth that cannot be understood by the person willing to take it apart. Bugatti had publicly stated that only 2 facilities on the entire planet possessed the specialized, proprietary jigs and laser-guided cradles necessary to separate the Chiron's front monocoque from its rear subframe. To attempt it in a garage in the English Midlands was, according to every official document, a physical impossibility that would likely result in a $4 million pile of scrap metal. Mate's response became the stuff of legend. He walked the corner of his shop, grabbed a plastic workshop trash can, and pulled off its rolling wheelbase. To split a Chiron, you have to support the massive W16 engine and dual-clutch transmission while simultaneously rolling the front carbon fiber tub away from it. Bugatti uses a multi-million-dollar hydraulic rail system to accomplish this. Mate used a standard 2-post lift, some scrap timber, and the wheelbase of a garbage bin. The internet watched with its collective heart in its throat. If the car tipped, it was over. If a single coolant line snagged, the carbon tub would crack. But as those cheap plastic wheels began to roll, the impossible happened. The $4 million hypercar separated with the mechanical grace of a Lego set. That single moment stripped away decades of mythology by getting the car apart with what he cheerfully called caveman tools. Mate exposed a secret Bugatti never wanted the world to focus on. The Chiron is surprisingly, almost shockingly, modular. As they peeled back the bodywork, they discovered that the entire front and rear sections are held together by just 14 primary titanium bolts, not magic fasteners forged in the heart of a dying star. High-grade bolts that, while expensive, follow the same fundamental laws of torque and tension as the ones holding together a Volkswagen Golf. With the two halves sitting on the shop floor, the true nature of the damage finally revealed itself. The Miami impact had been a freak accident of physics. The force hadn't just crunched the bumper. It had sent a shockwave through the entire chassis, shoving the 8-liter engine forward by a fraction of an inch. That tiny movement had crushed a series of vital coolant lines and dented structural heat shielding. But the real smoking gun, the reason Bugatti had wanted this car dead, was a single cast aluminum engine mount bracket. It was fractured. To Bugatti, a crack in a structural casting is a death sentence. Their official protocol is replace, never repair. And because they refused to sell that specific bracket as an individual component, their solution was to mandate the replacement of the entire engine and gearbox housing assembly. That was where the $1.7 million quote came from. It wasn't an engineering necessity. It was a corporate structure designed to make independent repair financially impossible. They weren't saying it couldn't be fixed. They were saying they wouldn't allow it to be fixed for anything less than the cost of a small island. But Mate wasn't just a mechanic. He was an investigator. As he pulled part numbers from deep within the Chiron's guts, he started finding fingerprints that Bugatti would have preferred stayed hidden. Sensors stamped with Audi logos. Clips and small mechanical components that shared unmistakable DNA with high-end Bentleys. While Bugatti owners pay a staggering markup for the EB crest on the packaging, the engineering reality underneath is a masterclass in parts bin sharing across the Volkswagen Group empire. Mate wasn't just fixing a car anymore. He was performing an autopsy on the hypercar industry's most profitable illusion. Rather than surrendering to the factory's terms, Mate consulted aerospace engineers and specialist welders. He 3D scanned the fractured engine mount and began exploring the possibility of CNC machining a billet aluminum replacement, a part that would actually be stronger than the original cast piece. Modern technology, the same CAD software and precision machining that Bugatti uses behind closed doors, had leveled the playing field. A dedicated individual with a well-equipped workshop could now replicate or improve upon components the factory insisted were irreplaceable. And then, just as the battle line seemed permanently drawn, something nobody expected happened. The other side blinked. But it didn't blink the way anyone predicted. The internet had been bracing for the corporate hammer to fall. Cease and desist letters, injunctions, the full legal arsenal of a brand backed by one of the largest automotive conglomerates on the planet. Instead, Mate Rimac picked up his phone and sent a direct message on Instagram. The message read simply, "Hey man, Bugatti CEO here." Rimac is not a typical automotive executive. He is a man who built a world-conquering electric vehicle empire, starting with an old BMW in his garage in Croatia. He understands a garage kid mentality because at his core, he still is one. While Bugatti's legal department likely had fingers hovering over the send button for something far more aggressive, Rimac chose a different path entirely. He chose conversation. He reached out directly to Alex Gonzalez. He didn't lead with threats. He led with engineering, person to person. He explained why 3D printing structural components for a 1,500 horsepower car wasn't just a matter of sticking it to the man. It was genuinely a matter of life and death. He pointed out that the gearbox, housing, and carbon monocoque endure forces that home-grade printing filaments simply cannot survive. The concern was real, and he communicated it without condescension. But then came the pivot that stunned the industry. Rimac admitted that the $1.7 million figure had been based on worst-case scenario insurance estimates, not a realistic repair pathway. He said Bugatti wanted to help. And then, in a move that reversed decades of hypercar orthodoxy, Bugatti officially unblacklisted the car. The VIN was restored. Parts could flow again. It was a complete reversal of everything the brand had stood for. By lifting the ban, Rimac wasn't just letting one damaged chassis back into the fold. He was acknowledging that a total loss label shouldn't be a permanent death sentence when a viable and safe repair path exists. Rimac didn't keep this private, either. He posted a video on social media directly addressing the build. He was measured, articulate, and disarmingly honest. He admitted to being a fan of Mate's content, creating a surreal moment in automotive history. The CEO of the world's most exclusive car brand, watching a YouTuber use a garbage can base to split his flagship product in half, and openly respecting the audacity of it. Rimac didn't mock the method. He used it as a springboard to explain the genuine complexity of the car. He corrected the viral headlight rumor, stating the actual cost was closer to $58,000, still astronomical, but a world apart from the inflated legend that had been fueling the internet's outrage. Then he extended an invitation. He offered Matt and Alex a conversation about a cost-efficient, factory-supported path forward, rumored to represent a dramatic reduction from the original seven-figure estimate. It was a chess move wrapped in an olive branch. If Matt and Alex refused a reasonable offer to have the car fixed properly, they risked looking like they valued content over craftsmanship. If they accepted, Bugatti regained oversight of the most famous salvage car on the planet and could ensure it wouldn't become a 261-mile-per-hour safety hazard. But the leverage had already shifted. Matt had proven the car was modular. He had proven the parts were accessible. The old model of dictating terms to owners from behind a fortress wall was finished. Rimac understood something that most legacy executives never grasp. In the age of social media, transparency is the only currency that holds its value. If he kept fighting Matt, he would become the villain who stopped a masterpiece from returning to the road. By supporting him, he became the rare CEO who respects the hustle. It was a calculation, yes, but it was also genuine. You could see it in the way Rimac talked about engineering. He and Matt were excited about the same thing: the beautiful, complex, occasionally maddening reality of machines built at the absolute limit. The fallout of this saga didn't stay contained within the walls of a workshop in the Midlands. It bled into the entire automotive industry, forcing a collision between the right to repair movement and the ultimate gatekeepers of luxury. For decades, the hypercar world has operated on a foundation of absolute control. When you buy a car at this level, there is an unwritten and often very explicitly written understanding. You are a custodian of the brand's image. If you crash it, you pay the factory. If they say it's dead, it stays dead. Matt Armstrong didn't just crack open a car. He cracked open that contract. The VIN-locking practice exposed a chilling frontier in automotive ownership. When Bugatti blacklisted the Chiron, they weren't merely protecting their engineering standards. They were exercising a form of digital rights management on a physical object. If a manufacturer can remotely kill a car by refusing to authorize software handshakes or sell replacement parts, a fundamental question emerges. Do you truly own the machine sitting in your garage, or are you simply leasing the right to drive it until the factory decides otherwise? Matt's struggle to source components illuminated a reality that extends far beyond hypercars. Even if you possess the mechanical skill to rebuild a 1,500 horsepower engine, A line of code written in France can keep that car off the road forever. Owners of Ferraris, McLarens, and Pagannis watch the trashcan footage with a volatile mixture of horror and hope. If a Bugatti, the absolute summit of automotive complexity, could be dismantled and diagnosed by a father and son in a workshop, then the myth of factory-only competence was exposed for what always was a profitable story. Advocacy groups began citing the Armstrong case as a landmark example. If the most complex car on earth can be serviced by an independent mechanic, there is no justification for tractor manufacturers or smartphone companies to lock out their customers either. The Chiron became an unlikely symbol of mechanical freedom, proof that proprietary tooling is often just a failure of imagination, and that unrepairable is frequently a synonym for unprofitable for manufacturer. The parts sharing discovery sent its own tremors through the industry. When Mate started pulling Audi and Volkswagen stamps from components buried deep inside the Chiron, it punctured the bespoke illusion at its most sensitive point. The engine and chassis are genuinely unique, but supporting systems ride on the backbone of the world's largest automotive parts bin. That single revelation empowers independent shops to service these machines without the Bugatti surcharge, potentially saving owners tens of thousands on routine maintenance alone. It signals the dawn of an era where owners might finally stop treating these cars as untouchable relics and start treating them as what they are: extraordinary machines, yes, but machines nonetheless. The timing of all of this couldn't have been more poetic. As Mate was literally splitting the past in half inside his garage, Mate Rimac was unveiling the future on a stage halfway across Europe, the Bugatti Tourbillon. And the new car reads almost like a response to everything Mate's build revealed. For the first time, Bugatti is moving away from the black box philosophy of the Chiron era and towards something that celebrates mechanical transparency. The Tourbillon carries an 8.3-liter naturally aspirated V16, a decision that defies every trend in the industry. In a world rushing towards silent, clinical electrification, choosing to build a screaming 9,000 RPM 16-cylinder engine is an act of pure conviction. Rimac has described it as a Swiss watch on wheels, and the comparison is deliberate. By eliminating the 4 turbochargers that define the Chiron, he has traded complexity for purity, creating a raw, visceral connection between driver and machine. The interior follows the same philosophy, featuring analog gauges crafted by actual Swiss watchmakers, a defiant rejection of the touchscreen monotony that has consumed modern luxury. This is where you can feel Mate's fingerprints on the future of the brand, even if nobody will ever say it out loud. Mate's videos prove that millions of people find the guts of a car